Hello again. My gosh, it's been a long time since the first video. So we're catching up once again. It's not that I didn't record any videos. As you can see, there is progress. It's just that I've chosen to build things rather than record and edit videos. And so I'll be recording but not posting. I have 49 videos since the last time. So what you're seeing here is the first 12 uprights on the walls put up, and these are Rubbermaid shelving or a double track shelving system that I've chosen to use for the layout, since you can adjust the height as well as the depth, modulate the depth basically depending on which bracket you use for the shelf. And so then a couple of days later, I've got everything installed. All the uprights are in place and ready to get moving and building more. And as you can see, I still have the benches in the room, which are all over the place, and they're just making mess, and it's hard to move around because I have to shift them from one corner to the other. But what can you do? It's the old layout that was there. So anyways, these uprights are different heights because this section here is going to have a staging underneath, and then there is going to be a wall along the middle of the room to create a peninsula, and then the staging will end up on the peninsula with a blob at the end of the peninsula, and the trains can auto restage when they go around and then come back. And so there'll be staging tracks on both sides of the peninsula. And now don't blink, because here is the wall. That didn't take long. It was just the next day basically. It's standard framing of the wall like you would do in a house, except I'm not putting any drywall on this wall. And that blue 2x4 in the front, that was custom made, and it was cut on 45 degrees on each end so that it can have the uprights on the sides so that they can cover 180 degrees of the peninsula blob. When you go around the curve, I can have brackets underneath there as opposed to just having the brackets on 90 degrees. And then on the studs here, the uprights will be offsetted on each side of the stud so that when you put them on, the screws don't accidentally hit each other. But that's just standard stuff you do anyways. And these are all 8 foot long because I didn't have a vehicle big enough to haul anything more than 8 feet, so I had to fit in my car. But then I had to go all around these speakers that I have in the ceiling and a bunch of other things, and hit all the joists every couple of feet so that I can secure the drywall. Secure the frame wall into the ceiling as well. And then I have 2 screws into the hardwood floor at the beginning, at the end of the wall. And that's enough to keep the wall from going anywhere. It's all pressure fitted. Anyway, moving on, the next time I've got the recording on going, I have the uprights on the middle wall, the peninsula wall, and I'm testing the heights of the layout. So on the left side I have a single deck, the right side will be a triple deck or double plus staging, and these heights are adjusted for my height, 75 inches. So ideally, if I had enough room, or if I wasn't crazy to go double deck, then I would build a single deck, and that's the ideal height for me. I think it's like 48 off the ground, but I'm going with double deck to maximize the run, and that's 42 and 59 off the floor. So I have about 17 and a half difference between the decks, and that gives me enough separation to have a decent clearance. So when you're standing in front of the benchwork, you actually can see the far corner of the deck, and then the staging doesn't really matter, just going to be below there. So then I decided to cut these benches I had from the old layout and build shelves that I can put stuff underneath the layout, because I figured, they look like shelves and why not use them? So I've taken them apart and cut pieces up, and turns out I couldn't reuse them as they were because they were too wide. But long story short, they turned out good, and I can pile up all kinds of things, bins and boxes and whatnot, and I still have enough room underneath them to sweep the dust or vacuum, whichever way. I made them shorter than the previous benches just so that I have more room to put taller bins because they still need to fit underneath the first deck of the layout, which goes there, and then you know how the brackets are 3 inches tall, so they will stick out, you know, 18 or 12 or 16, whichever ones you use, and then the boxes or the bins still need to fit underneath clearly. And the other reason for the shallow or shorter shelves was because I had outlets to contend with. And then next thing on the list was lights. The previous layout had different aisle arrangement, and so I had 3 aisles, not 2. So which meant moving all these spotlights in the ceiling, making new holes, and patching the old holes. You can see here they're not patched yet because I really don't like drywall and mudding and sanding. It's just one of those things that doesn't give me any pleasure whatsoever, but it has to be done. And so here I moved the lights because this is where the first aisle is going to be, and then, you know, it's about 33 or 34 space between the two edges of the benchwork, and here in the second aisle it's about 31. I try to keep them somewhat generous. Obviously it's not perfect because, as I said, the room is only 12.5 feet wide, and then here the benchwork is going to be 24 inches from the left wall, so I put the light right above to have enough illumination. And then the peninsula is just gonna go around the blob of the peninsula. So yeah, and there they are, all 3 decks. These blobs are just ginormous, even though they're only 28 or 29 in width across to support the 25.5, 26 radius curve around the peninsula. You know, you kind of realize what kind of a space this occupies, and you end up with pinch points on each side, but it's okay. I mean, here you can see basically the separation between the decks, and then you can see how the upper deck insets, because it's narrower, insets the lower deck by, I think, 4 or 5 inches or something. But the beginning of the curve radius of the blob starts at the same spot. It's just that I've inset the upper tip of the blob more so that it doesn't overhang the lower end. Otherwise it would have impeded viewing of whatever is at the tip of this peninsula on the middle deck. And you know, once you put the valance and everything, you end up, you know, not being able to see everything unless you're shorter than me. But obviously I'm building this for my height first, and then, you know, this is, you know, my eye level there, more or less. No, that's my eye level. But when you stand out, I mean, from further away, you can see more, but that's not how you operate. And then the staging ends up being totally hidden from the view almost by the middle deck, and then it climbs up, but the middle deck probably covers it. Although staging only has 2 tracks in and out, or north and south. Let's just continue. Get all the other decks out of the way, and then start laying cork on the staging deck and more benchwork all the way to the end. And it looks pretty big. I mean, it's pretty nice for a staging yard. I think it's gonna have 6 or 7 tracks plus the runaround track, and it's gonna have curved turnouts here in the tip of the peninsula. And, you know, there's some misalignment between the plywood, because you can never buy plywood that's straight unless you have your own mill that's going to make it for you. I don't know what you need to do or where you need to go. I don't know. I mean, where I live, it's all warped. So anyways, here are some of the turnouts for the staging salvaged from the old layout. They're all Code 100 Pico turnouts. I'm using, for some reason, Atlas joiners because I like them better than Pico. They're more readily available where I live, so I have a store nearby, and there is my plan for my staging, and you can see it's pretty big. And then here is the staging level, all corked up and painted and ready for the track. It looks magnificent. Well, I guess. Now, on my previous layout, I was actually going around the long wall with the staging, but you know, that was back then. Now I'm kind of trying something else, and the previous staging was really big, and this one is smaller, but I think it's going to be more functional because, you know, I have more experience now and I know what I'm looking for. So yeah, but let's just move on. And there it is, just like magic. A month later, all the tracks laid down in the staging. You know, 7 tracks all the way around the peninsula blob and back, and turnouts are in place, motors are in place. I'm using tortoise motors and looks pretty good. I'm quite happy with the way it turned out, and I tried to lay it all straight and not have any kinks. I'm going to probably continue then from there going up. There is going to be an incline basically to the helix area, as I've lowered the staging deck by another 3 inches so that I have more separation between the main deck and the staging deck. And then here are some of the electronics boards I'm going to use to wire all the things. These are from the previous layout from the N scale. I've saved some and I'm going to use those Euro blocks to connect everything. But so far so good. And then the summer happened and, you know, not much has been done. And now this is 3 months later. But those lights you see there, that means there is power now on the track. I mean, I'm holding a throttle in my hand. What does it mean? It means the trains are running on the layout. People like that. No, actually, there is a locomotive there at the far end because that's the only place that actually has power for now. And I was just running it back and forth, but there is a little bit of satisfaction in being able to run a locomotive back and forth for 3 feet or 2 feet. But let me insert now a video that was shot 3 days after this video was recorded. I was in the zone to wire and I really end up on a marathon wiring the whole thing, and you'll see that everything is running and I have a locomotive on track. So here we go. And here is the next update. Actually marking a milestone since the wiring is finished. Everything is connected, including the turnout controls and block occupancy detectors. And if you hear chuffing over there in the distance, oh, that's a 462 Pacific. As a side note, I can't believe I don't have any lock sound locomotives like this one. Everything I have is DC based because I've been buying DC steam locomotives on eBay in, I guess, anticipation of installing lock sound, but I don't have any decoders, and so somehow I end up with this one, and this one has a lock sound. The other New Haven one over there, that's not lock sound because it doesn't get detected the same way. So I opened the tender in this one and it was actually SU on the PCB. So, but it's nice to actually have trains running all the way around and not just on a few feet of turnouts. Now I just have to go and solder all the joints, and probably just on the straight tracks. I'm going to leave the joints on the turnouts alone because in case I need to replace them or fiddle with something on that, whatever. And I have JMRI running here, so you can see events coming out of the block occupancy detectors. Now we just crossed the block, so it's entering this block, that track, and this turnout are one block. And then the main after this turnout is another block, so there it goes again. And then there is other chatter between the command station and the locomotive, because when you press throttle you can see it says going 40, and then I can go back and you can see the command station sending throttle requests, and these are all diesel traffic from block occupancy. So yeah, I mean, success, milestone, yay, trains are running. Okay, so I'll just cut it short here because this next video is going to be about helix construction, and this video is already 15 minutes long, so I'll cut it short here and then continue with the helix construction next time. Thanks for watching and see you soon.